In this video, this episode of the Orange Nerd Show, we are going to discuss the relevancy of the Oscars and just Hollywood in general. There's a fascinating shift in what's going on here with both of these things. They're really connected, but fascinating shift. We're going to discuss it up next. Hey everybody, welcome aboard to another episode of the Orange Nerd Show, where we talk about everything except the theme parks. We're talking movies, Hollywood, entertainment, streaming, TV, Marvel, Star Wars, all of it. I brought my good friend, collaborator, producer Dre, host of Freshly Squeezed. How you doing today, Dre?
I'm doing very well, thank you. When you reached out to me about this topic, I was like, ooh, that is really interesting because you can go off in a billion different directions. So I am really excited to get started with this topic today. The best place to find me, well, it's going to be at BashGuys on Twitter. It's right down there, just like it's spelled. And to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now, on OrangeNerd 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the grove. So that is where you can find me.
There we go. Let's dive into the topic at hand. So what's going on with the Oscars in Hollywood? There has been, I'm sure everyone at home has kind of noticed this. There's been a decline, to say the least, in regards to the relevancy of both of these things, right? But especially, we'll start with the Oscars. Because that's kind of on everyone's mind right now because of the Will Smith situation, right?
Yes. Yeah, that is on everybody's mind right now, isn't it? This thing has escalated quite a bit here. Apparently, Will Smith has resigned from the Academy, as we know. It looks like the Board of Governors have actually moved up their meeting by like 10 days to deal with the situation, so we're still waiting on that. I mean, there's a lot of potential fallout here. And remember, folks, Disney decided to go pretty hard into Will Smith and his career with some of their entertainment properties. So that affects them directly too. It's a kind of a fascinating thing to see play out here.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. It's very fascinating. If you bought Will Smith stock prior to the Oscars, I don't know what to tell you, because that stock is definitely down right now.
It's down. And to give you an idea of how much it might be down, there was a recent poll on this, actually, about whether or not people actually agreed with Will Smith or didn't agree with Will Smith. But as everything is coming out here, that has trended in the wrong direction for Will Smith. So according to this Yahoo News YouGov poll, which gathered data from March 31st to April 4th, shows that 47% of those surveyed view Smith unfavorably. It's up from 37% in a similar poll conducted solely on March 28th, the day after the Oscars. A majority of people questioned in the new study, 67%, believe Will Smith's actions were wrong, 16% said that he was right, and 17% responded that they were not sure. So it's not looking good for old Will there. And I think this really has... we were talking about it, privately before this, before this recording, that his brand has been really tarnished. It looks like he'll still be, maybe okay if he takes the right moves going forward, but his brand of kind of being like this kind of relatable, friendly everyman was really battered over the last few weeks. So I mean, it's tough.
I was really shocked. I mean, to be quite honest with you, in regard to that whole situation, I mean, really, because I just, man, there's certain celebrities I'm like, okay, I can see that happening with that particular person.
Sure.
Will Smith, it would never cross my mind. Will Smith has always been seen, like you mentioned, he's always been kind of seen as like a family-friendly actor. He does a lot of family-friendly movies. That's his brand, and just for him to behave the way he did at the Oscars was just like, whoa, like really out of character. Like I just didn't expect it. I just really didn't expect it. It kind of blew me away, to be quite honest with you. And it kind of dovetails a lot into like just the overall conversation about the Oscars themselves. We've seen over the years. I'm 42, and for like as long as I can remember, it feels like the Oscars have been, kind of losing relevancy with every year. We see the headlines after
Right.
every Academy Awards.
Yeah.
This one was the lowest viewed, lowest
Yeah.
rated Oscars of all time. It's lower
Mm-hmm.
than last year, and then the next one comes out, it's lower than last year, and it just seems like this down, like it's kind of like perpetual downhill kind of thing with the Oscars. I want to ask you, Dre, like, do award shows like this have a place right now, or is it just kind of an antiquated concept? What's going on? Why can't the Oscars be relevant? What's going on with this?
Well, unfortunately, for the Oscars, they kind of did it to themselves, and that was by design. Doing some research on this, I found this little tidbit here, which I thought was fascinating. Historically, the telecast viewership is higher when box office hits are favored to win Best Picture award. Conversely, however, ceremonies honoring films that have not performed well at the box office tend to show weaker ratings. And honestly, they've kind of done that to themselves, right? We saw, even with the recent announcement of a Best Popular Film category, well, what do you think that's all about? It's to keep popular films that used to be, box office draws that used to have some critical acclaim out of the Best Picture category. I think the last kind of major successful, box office performer that was nominated and won for Best Picture was, I think, Lord of the Rings. I think it was the Return of the King back in 2004. That's going back a long ways right there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were upset, for example, in 2008 when The Dark Knight, for example, wasn't nominated for Best Picture, right? Everybody felt that was a big snub, along with Wall-E. It turns out animation is mixed in with this too. I understand that George and yourself, and maybe you have done multiple videos on this specific notion, where Beauty and the Beast was, famously nominated for Best Picture back in 1992. And while it did not win, I guess there was a kind of an idea that, ranging out throughout the entire Academy, that they were worried that animated films would usurp other films in terms of the Best Picture category, which is why which is partly why they started the Best Animated Feature Film category in 2001 in order to prevent that from happening. Well, obviously, it didn't work too well in 2010. Up was famously nominated for Best Picture, and 2011, Toy Story 3 was nominated for Best Picture. So it's a little, you can still get into the Best Picture category. However, it's much harder. And because these popular films aren't nominated traditionally, or haven't been nominated since 2004, I guess, of all times, you've seen that steady decline of the kind of Academy Awards and people watching it, because honestly, Hollywood's kind of insulated itself. You have a lot of kind of ego-driven people who are more concerned about their own films and their own works. I think there was an Oscars, I was trying to find it, but a couple years back, Jimmy Kimmel actually hosted the Oscars and actually made a joke alluding to this, or maybe it wasn't a joke, but it was like, these are the films for the plebs and these are the films for us. We're here to celebrate the films of our making, of our, creation. And it's like, as it's the Oscars have fallen out of touch, as celebrity culture in general, traditional celebrity culture has fallen out of touch. I think this is why we're seeing the effects we're seeing now.
Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, I have made many videos, and I think actually one of my first videos very early on in the channel, I'll put it in the description down below so people can check it out. It's old school. It comes from the OG 55 archives for sure. This is vintage OG 55. Nice. But I made a video, and I did make one more recently with George Disney Family Man, about how my displeasure with the whole like Best Animated Film category, because look, when Beauty and the Beast was nominated for Best Animated Film, right, in the early 90s, it was obvious that like the Academy and just the industry was really nervous about that, right? Like, it didn't sit well with them. So they immediately worked on trying to get a best animated category, so we can sort of funnel these animated films, into the kiddie table. Here we'll give you your own little spot to stay away from the real movies, guys. Stay away from the real movies, and that was kind of like the mentality a little bit, right? And yeah, there have been movies like you mentioned, like Up, that have kind of broken those barriers and have been nominated for both. But I think the overall mindset, though, when they initially created that category, was really to keep them separate so it wouldn't interfere and wouldn't really pose too much of a threat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I really was against that from the beginning. I think a good movie is a good movie. Okay, I don't care if it's animation, live action, claymation, stop motion. If the movie is well written, well directed, good story, it hits you in the feels. It's just good storytelling. Then it's good storytelling.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's animated. Like, we don't have like best Western movie. We don't have the best comedy, right? It's just best film. So why does animation need its own category? It's not a genre. It's a medium. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
it doesn't
absolutely.
make any sense to me. And animation, and this is the one thing I love about Japan, actually.
Yeah.
Because Japan really does see animation as something that's like for everybody. They do a lot of adult stuff.
Yes.
It's not just like kind of pigeonholed into like kiddie fanfare. And Walt Disney also understood this long time ago. He understood this, that like it's for everybody. It's not just for kids. And that's why when you watch a movie like Bambi, it deals with a lot of pretty serious issues. I mean, Bambi's mother getting shot, even Lion King, which is fairly recent in the last like 20, 30 years, dealt with kind of mature issues, with Mufasa. Right. But we've lost sight of that a little bit. I feel like we've kind of like, we're kind of like, I don't know. It just, I wish that as a society, we sort of would recognize animation as just one way to tell a story. And it's not just for kids. And this best animated category, I think, was a slap in the face. I think it was a way to marginalize animation. And, I'm glad. I think it was Lord and Miller, right? Directors of the Lego movie that came out and kind of started this whole conversation about the best animated film category, which I think is fantastic.
But I do believe you. I do believe you are correct. And look, it's. I mean, a lot of people share your frustration, especially among animators who are always counted out, who are always told, one time you make it to the big. To the big screen when where you can sit at the adult table with the other live action films. It's like, come on, really? I mean, that's one of the things that has really frustrated me about American culture, is because, like in Japan, like you said, it's like they view animation as an art form to be celebrated, not unlike their live action productions. Whereas here we just poo-poo it, and it's I've even heard this comment from family where it's like, well, I don't want to see that, it's a cartoon, and it's like, oh my god, like, really, you're not going to see something that could be mesmerizing in terms of the quality of its production, in terms of its if it's of the I don't know, blood, sweat, and tears that went into making it. You're gonna write all that off because the medium. I mean, that's just it's unfortunately. I mean, I don't want to cast too many dispersions, but it's kind of small-minded thinking, if you ask me.
No, it is. It is. I mean, you look, some animation. I mean, has been more timeless, and has kind of withstood the test of time more than a lot of even some of the live action stuff. Yes. And I just think that, I mean, and the Academy is, look, hey, let's be honest, the Academy has kind of always been known to be a little hoity-toity and a little bit, and so they definitely have this mindset of like animation, I think, being a little bit of a lesser kind of thing, which is disappointing, very disappointing. And I'm glad that Lord and Miller, took this head on and they're addressing it, and it's been out there now. I think even John Campea did a segment on it yesterday, and it's fantastic. I love that people are talking about this because it's a big issue. It's a big issue.
And as technology propels the art form forward in terms of just cinema in general, right? It's going to become harder and harder to kind of find the differences between animation and live action, right? So like Avatar, for example, came out in 2009, but really, when you look at that, that's kind of an animated film in a lot of ways,
Right.
right? I mean, it probably more than live action in many cases. So, as these lines get blurred, medium, I hope will become far more irrelevant. And I don't know. I mean, they haven't implemented the best popular film category yet. I hope they don't, because some of the films that will be coming out, I think they deserve to be in that top category. And I don't know. It's Hollywood's snobbish attitude towards these things and kind of elitist attitude towards these things that keeps them back. And it's really shameful, not just for the audience, but also to the creators who actually create these works.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the best popular film category is another version of the best animated category. It's a way to sort of, you're pushing these films into another category, so you don't really have to deal with them. They're over there. They're not the best picture. No. It's best animated, best popular, but leave them in their own category, please. It's like, come on, it's like, it's so hoity toity. And that really does speak to the relevancy of the Oscars. Like, look, here's the thing. Are these award shows, and I want to ask you, Dre, because this is interesting. Are these award shows something that is even really sustainable right now? Are they something that can work? Because in this new world of social media, of like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, things like that, where you can get news like this.
Yeah.
Do we need a 3-4 hour presentation to announce what the best picture is?
Yeah.
This is like, we live in a new world now where these kind of announcements, couldn't they be done kind of like just on a tweet? Do we need to watch a 4-hour presentation? And a lot of people don't really even like a lot of like these, I hate to say it, but like these celebrities, and they get up there and they preach and they do their thing. A lot of people are turned off by that.
Oh, yes.
Do we need all that, or can we just get the winners in a press release and call it a day? I mean, is that kind of where we're at? What are you feeling?
I think if you were to ask the average American, I believe they would agree with you and say we don't need all this pomp and circumstance that we have here for this kind of awards ceremony kind of thing here. But I think for the celebrities, they would probably disagree. It's all about the parties. It's all about whose dress is relevant coming down the red carpet. It's it's kind of this media darling for so long. It just upholds a kind of Hollywood establishment industry that is continuing to be more irrelevant as time goes on. I mean, we see the ratings, right? I think for the 93rd Academy Awards, I think it was like 10 million viewers. To juxtapose that back during the 70th Academy Awards back in 1998, you're talking about like 57 million viewers. So it has dropped considerably. And I think this last one was, like 16 million. Obviously, post slap, that number did raise substantially, right. but not for the reasons I think the Academy won for. Surely. I know a lot of people felt like, oh, this is just a ruse, this is just a thing to get ratings. The reason why that kind of thought process is out there is because the Oscars, other than this latest incident, have become continuously irrelevant in kind of the popular zeitgeist. So I think that will continue, and I think you're right. I think it. I mean, I used to watch the Oscars, even against all my family and friends who was like, what are you doing? Why are you watching this? And it just became, honestly, so rigged, that it was just like, you know what? I'm done with this. This is not my cup of tea here. So even film aficionados like myself have tuned out in recent years. And I think that trend will continue. I think this is why the Oscars have kind of turned towards a more performance-based kind of show, just to get people to watch, So it's more like a kind of like the VMAs or Grammys, where you have more performances interwoven into the production. But no, I don't think it's quite sustainable, and really is a reflection of our culture, right? Our culture has kind of seen celebrities, and I think this is where you want to go here. Celebrity culture traditional celebrity culture itself has become increasingly relevant. Irrelevant. We have the rise of TikTokers, we have the rise of Instagrammers and YouTubers. PewDiePie regularly gets tens of millions of views per video. That's more than a lot of these celebrities can even do in their own films. So it's quite remarkable, and I think we really saw this come to light during the events of 2020 when theaters were closed, when people kind of became insulated into their own problems and their own dealings, and the family what was going on with the family was far more important than just about anything else, obviously, during those events. And we saw celebrities band together and get really desperate to try to become or try to maintain their relevancy, and it didn't quite work out, but it really highlighted like, wow, it's these people who we might have cared about the ongoings of their lives. Really, we don't. All things considered.
Yeah, no, 100%. And really the videos that went viral during the pandy, when we were in full lockdown mode, and like you said, the celebrities were releasing their videos, and regular Americans and people around the world were releasing their kind of videos and their what do you want to call them? I guess memes, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was the regular people that really caught fire in a lot of these instances. It wasn't like the celebrity stuff that was really the viral videos. It was like the homemade videos that people made with their families that really caught fire. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, that's the changing landscape that we're living in right now, where like the age of the celebrity is kind of over, of the Hollywood celebrity, right? Because now, like before 30, 40, 50 years ago, like if you wanted to be a celebrity, you had to go through the proper channels, get an agent, get cast in a movie, get cast in a TV show. Well, now you don't. You have a webcam, and you got a personality, and you got something to say. You can effectively be like, PewDiePie or any of these people. They get millions and millions and millions of views. The need for the Hollywood celebrity is sort of evaporating a little bit, and like you said, like during the pandemic, they were sort of desperate to gain that relevance. I think that there's a lot of validity to that statement, because it's like, they were trying to kind of like, hey, look at us, we're still here, kind of thing. And it's like, well, no one really cares. There are youngsters that follow their favorite TikToker a lot more closely than they do, say, Robert Downey Jr. or whatever celebrity, Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah.
It's a different world. A lot of these TikTokers and Instagram people are more relevant to young people now than a lot of these like traditional kind of celebrities. And I think that worries Hollywood. I think it worries them quite a bit. The celebrity culture is fading fast. And here's the other thing too, is that people don't really care. If you were to look back, like say during Walt Disney's era,
sure,
celebrity was huge. People would go to the movies just to see Judy Garland. Oh, she's in that, I'm going to go see it because Judy Garland is in that movie. People don't care anymore. Like, like for example, Robert Downey Jr., right? People love Robert Downey as Iron Man, but no one's like thirsty to go see Robert Downey in anything else. No one cares. They like him as Iron Man, but that's where it starts and stops. A lot of his movies flop because they just don't care. No one really buys into the celebrity culture anymore, where, oh, we got to see a movie because so-and-so's in it anymore. It's a huge change from what it was decades ago. It's fascinating.
For sure. I'll say, I think celebrity, as it becomes more culturally irrelevant, at least traditional celebrity. I do believe like those box office draws where it's like, oh, Robert Downey Jr.'s on the poster, let's go see that film, are going to decline more and more. I think there's still some cachet in that, but you're right though. I mean, that effect is actually happening. It's kind of interesting because Hollywood has kind of seen this in kind of these different forms, right? Where traditionally you had to go to the kind of Hollywood establishment, the Hollywood machine, so to speak, in order to be at all relevant. And that was, that was designed that way for a reason, right? It was to kind of you know I don't know, expand the pocketbooks of some of these Hollywood moguls out there, because you had to go through them because they had the apparatus, they had the studios, they had the equipment, and so forth. We saw that change in the 1970s with the rise of some independent filmmakers because, as cameras became more affordable, the works started to be decentralized, outside of the traditional Hollywood system. We saw like the rise of George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola and Steven Spielberg kind of like become more experimental, auteurs, so to speak, these kind of filmmakers. And you saw that dynamic change, and it obviously kind of went the route that it had before, but under a much different structure. Previously, to them, back in the day, back in the 1950s and 60s, if let's say you were a Hollywood actor, for example, well, you were contracted to that specific studio, and you couldn't transfer around and so forth. So we've kind of seen this kind of decentralization, this kind of destabilizing force occur in multiple ways, a lot of times forwarded by technology. But now with the internet, now where every single person has kind of a cinematic, look at the iPhone 13, right? A lot of its advertisements were around, hey, you could take this camera that's on your smartphone and have kind of a cinematic quality level experience with it that you can take, with you all on the go all the time, kind of thing. And that's given rise to so many independent content creators, including us here at Orange Grove 55. Please subscribe. That it's really, it's kind of changed the game. It's changed the dynamic. And I think a lot of these, I don't know if these Hollywood stars quite know what's happening and how relevant they're becoming now that they've insulated themselves in Hollywood. But I'm telling you, it is changing. And as these kind of communities grow, people that are like into games, they follow their streamers, so to speak. People who are, into Disney. It's fascinating. Us as kind of part of this Twitter, or kind of the part of the Disney fan community, we gave the Will Smith thing like what? I don't know, what would you say, a couple hours? Whereas there's a new controversy brewing within the community, around the vlogging community specifically, and I think you know which one I'm talking about. That's taken up quite a bit more time. So it's, it's kind of all of those things, and really relevance has become very subjective in that way.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And you bring up a great point when it comes to like the Disney vlogger controversy, and I'm not going to get into it here because I just don't want to. I know. But yeah, we've been following that quite closely, and even like the Will Smith thing, right? And you bring up a great point, Ray. It's like people's attentions are now in like a million different directions. Yeah. Like before, it like old school. Right? Like when it came to like, let's just say cartoons, kids only had so many options. You only had like 4 or 5 channels to choose from. Right. And not only did you only have 4 or 5 channels to choose from, but you had windows of opportunity to watch that content. So it was like either after school from like 3 to 5, like the Disney afternoon, or it was Saturday morning. So every kid was like zeroed in on these 4 or 5 channels and those 1 or 2 time slots. So things kind of gained popularity in a different manner.
Yes.
Like when I was a kid, everybody watched the Disney afternoon. Everybody watched it. Everybody watched He-Man. Everybody watched Voltron because there was only certain things you could watch. Well, now kids have unlimited access. You can watch cartoons any time of the day that you want. Kids entertainment. You go on your iPad, streamers. Whatever you can. It's endless.
Yeah.
And it's just different. And like what one person is into, some other person might not even have any idea that it even exists. Right? Where like in the 80s, everyone was into the same stuff, right?
Yeah.
There weren't that many options to go with.
Well, yes, but But we still saw the rise of some of these kind of independent directors and so forth, and these kind of experimental filmmakers that did give rise to some great film. But yes, the venues by which that content could be distributed were very, very limited, which is why most people kind of saw the same thing, so to speak. And now you have so many different options. You have so much variety. You have so much content coming at you from all different types, directions. How do you break through that noise? Well,
Right.
one, you got to be really good, right? You have to deliver some really great content. Or two, you go with an established, a kind of a baked in or established audience, right? And that's
Right.
why we see the rise of so many, these these kind of remakes, or taking of an old franchise and bringing it to a new audience kind of thing, because it has that kind of built-in audience from the days by which those venues were limited. So it's quite fascinating how this whole thing has gone. And honestly, I think celebrities are going to fall by the wayside, because studios who direct a lot of this are going to want their money.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. We, like I said before, we've talked about many, many times on Orange Nerd. The industry is totally changing, and it's not like, look, a lot of times we focus on like the streaming versus theater war, and that's a big part of the equation, but there
Sure.
are so many facets, so many elements to this. We
Yeah.
touched upon them here today with the celebrities, people having access to webcams and a huge audience at home. The kind of the antiquated sort of approach to these award shows like the Oscars and even like the MTV Awards, which are also seeing a decline in viewership. Everything is changing right now. Everything in Hollywood and entertainment is changing right now. It's a whole new landscape. In 10, 20 years from now, I think it's gonna be a much different place than it is today. Even, I think it's a whole new world. It's a whole new world.
I think it is. And to give a shout out to our our boy King Daka, that's been a guest on the channel recently. I believe I was looking at his Twitter feed, and he was watching the VMAs. He's like, he didn't get any big names for the VMA shows, and that's partly into it. You do have some big music groups, but even that industry is continuing to evolve and change. And I think the streaming war versus theater system is quite interesting, because, like you said, I mean, it is part of this complex system that is continuously changing. And it's like the streaming thing is big, because it's like, hey, if we can get our content distributed directly into the pockets and into the streaming devices of our consumers, isn't that a big boon for us, as it competes alongside with all these other apps that people have, Spotify, YouTube, so forth, that we have to compete for. So it is changing. And it's funny, because right now we have the rise of the independent creator, right? But as these creators get bigger and become more corporatized, maybe the gatekeeping comes back a little bit, and
Right.
kind of funnels through that bottleneck, so to speak. And I don't know, through the edifice of time, it ebbs and flows. So we're just going to have to see how this all shakes out. But it is a really fascinating time to be alive, so to speak.
Well, yeah, it is. It is. And you bring up a great point. And this is a whole other can of worms, but it does tie into this for sure, where it's like the independent creator, they're independent up until a point, right? Like let's say you're independent, and then you start to get a million subscribers, right?
Sure.
And all these corporations are knocking on your door to sponsor you. Well, now you got Coca-Cola sponsoring your channel. Well, that changes the dynamic. At that point, are you really independent? Because now you're being told, like, we've even talked about it before, like when me, you, and Family Man, we did a video about the Magic Candle Company. And I know this is on a much smaller scale, but it kind of does tie into what we're talking about. The three of us did a review of the Magic Candle Company. Now, none of us are sponsored by them. No. We don't get any money from them. So when we went into our review, it was very easy to be like, well, yeah, no, the pirate candle does not smell like pirates. I'm sorry, right?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of Disney content creators are sponsored by them. So do you think they have the freedom to sort of express that same opinion? Probably not. It changes the dynamic. I mean, and yeah, you're technically independent, but hey, you got Magic Candle Company over here saying, hey, you know what? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we've seen it within our own community, right? Within like the Galactic Star Cruise, a lot of media outlets, both independent and bigger, were like, "Hey, well, wait a minute, you can't trust this media outlet because they're trying to get access, and trust us," kind of thing. And it was this back and forth thing. It was like, come on, like, just. I think people can understand. Okay, Walt Disney World News Today or touring plans might give a different opinion than some Joe Blow Twitter account on that's not really affiliated with anybody, so to speak, right? I think we can all kind of make that rationalization. We can all kind of put that in perspective. But it is kind of interesting how hey, you know what, you get to a big point, you get to a certain point where you're sponsored, and you take those funds, you funnel into the channel, but you want to keep your sponsorship, and what kind of I don't know what conceits you make in order to retain that sponsorship. I think it's a fascinating thing.
Well, yeah, it even comes down to like followers, like
yeah. Oh yes.
There's definitely brands out there. And I'm all about people can make the content they want to make. I want to put that out there right now before I even kind of get into my point here. But I don't
do what you want to do. It's all good.
Yeah, if anyone wants to make whatever they want to make, that's what you make. That's all good. But the reality though, there are a lot of content creators out there that have a brand. Either it's like the F Kathleen Kennedy brand or the Shill brand or whatever it is, right? Well, you become accustomed to getting super chats and things based on that brand. Yeah. Well, then you're kind of beholden to that brand. So it's like, let's just say that you have a whole brand dedicated about hating Star Trek, right? Like, oh, the new Star Trek sucks, right? Well, and you made a lot of money. You've gotten a lot of subscribers based on hating Star Trek or hating the new Star Trek. Well, now let's say a new Star Trek show comes out or a new Star Trek movie comes out and it's actually pretty good. Well, now you're kind of, as an independent creator, sort of in the predicament of like, well, shit, I've been getting a lot of super chats by hating this stuff. Now I like this thing. Am I going to damage my brand by admitting I like it? Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of content creators have that dilemma, right? And a lot of them handle it very, very well, right? They handle it very, very well. But some, they just kind of like, okay, well, I better just say I don't like it or I better say I like it because of this or that. But yeah, that's also an issue. Once the monetization starts rolling in, you're beholden to your brand, So it's a tough call.
And we've seen that. We've seen that with people in our industry, right? In kind of the vlogger sphere, right? When you ask that person, it's like, maybe they aren't as truthful as they might be because they have branded themselves a certain way, and that's actually how biases get constructed, right?
Right.
And it's look, and I'll just tell you, right now, I try to be as unbiased as possible. I try to take in various amounts of information and data coming in, but hey, even I can be biased, and even you can be biased in some way. We try to acknowledge that as best we can, but it happens to the best of us. So yeah, you could even be beholden not just to corporate sponsorship, but also as an independent creator to your fans or to your followers, to your subscribers as well. I don't know. We try to give you the real. We try to break it down for real here, but hey, that doesn't always make us popular, even with our subscribers.
Yeah, no, 100%. You hit the nail on the head, Vash. Like, I mean, everyone we're all human beings, right? Mm-hmm. We're all human beings. Everyone has, to some degree, some sort of built-in bias,
Absolutely.
And here in OG55, we do our best to really present a fair and balanced, honest critique of what we see, right? Yep. But like as human beings, like everyone has this disposition towards certain things. Yeah. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And every film critic, every vlogger, every whatever has that same issue. It's just it's a struggle,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just fascinating. It's a fascinating conversation, and I could talk about it for hours because really there's so much going on here with it. And at what point does an independent creator no longer become an independent creator? You know,
I mean, there's a question now, especially now that those lines are being blurred, just like we alluded to before in animation. Those lines are being blurred.
Yeah.
So it's quite fascinating. Look, we all have our biases. OG, he likes the sequel trilogy. It's fine. It's like fine. It's nobody's perfect, but it's just one of the biases that we have. No, I'm just joking. I'm just playing.
No, 100%. No, exactly. We all have our biases, and we all have our kind of set. I don't even know what you want to call it, but like the set mindset, right? Where we kind of work from, So, and then once you start including, like I said, once you start including sponsorships, once you start including monetization, once you start including that kind of thing, it complicates it even more for a lot of creators, and it just gets complicated, and it falls really under the whole, even like Hollywood thing, they're beholden to certain people. And that's why there's a lot of things that happen. We talked about it with like the theater industry and how there's elements of that are in play when they're fighting the whole day and date thing. And there's a lot of elements involved. It's a fascinating conversation. It really is. And there's a lot of moving parts, but at the end of the day though, I think we can all agree that the Oscars are irrelevant.
They are exactly.
Not going anywhere. They're not going up. It's going to be completely. In all honesty, I do think that they will eventually take it off network TV, and it will be some sort of like streaming thing that you just can. If you want to watch it, here it is, kind of throwaway thing. I think the days of the Oscars are coming to an end. I'll be real.
I think so. I mean, the ratings, they can't get much lower. So, and now with this new incident, I mean, a lot of people think, the ratings are going to be higher for next year based on this incident. I don't think so. I don't think this controversy has that many legs, to use a theater term, so to speak. So, I just don't think you're going to get there. And yes, I do think they're going to be irrelevant. But hey, I have to give a shout out to some of these creators on kind of our sphere. I have a lot of respect for creators who kind of go against their brand, who go against their kind of built-in audience, and who kind of like go against the thing just for their honest opinion and the kind of their opinion about what's going on around them. I got a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I actually. I can't even believe I'm doing this, but look, WDWNT, they are all in on the FJPEG thing, right? Very critical of Disney. They're all in on it, right?
Yeah.
And I gotta be completely honest, I was wrong. When they said when they were going to go to the Galactic Star Cruiser, I fully expected, and I think a lot of people did, I fully expected them to come back and say it sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, I just did. I didn't think they were going to like it. Okay. Yep. They weren't really huge fans of Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
And just, they're not fans of Bob Chapek. And I'm just like, okay, they're going to come back. It's going to be horrible. And honestly, they came back and with a really, 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 really fair and honest review. And kudos. I got to give credit where it's due. I mean, that's, look, their brand, that's an example. Their brand is like the whole like F Disney kind of thing. Well, they kind of bucked that whole trend, like not trend, but like they sort of like went against their own branding, so to speak, right? Like they were like, okay, no, I'm going to be real with you. This was cool. We enjoyed it. And they probably got a lot of heat from a lot of their fans,
Probably.
And they still, I don't know. I respect that. And that's an example, like what you were just saying, like a lot of content creators that sort of like go against what they're known for and might get heat for it. Hey, they did that with the Galactic Star Cruiser, and I give them credit for it.
It's a huge risk, but I have immense respect for people who do that because it's not easy. It really isn't. When you're in the hot seat and you're looking at those view counts and stuff like that, you're looking at it and you're going, do I go against my built-in audience for this opinion that I have? For the people who do, or even their kind of corporate sponsorships, I have respect for.
No, 100%. Which another shout out, I want to give us another shout out to because look, we've been critical, and I think it's good to point out like the really the creators doing it right, doing the right thing, and the Diz, Pete from the Diz is another example. From what I understand, I think you mentioned this to me, where he actually works with Disney with a travel agency.
Yeah, he has a kind of travel company who works directly with Disney, because their commission comes from fulfilled packages that then Disney then pays them kind of for, so to speak. So it's like they had to have a direct relationship in order to make any money, in order to do their kind of travel agency. So it's a pretty, it's a pretty.
And
he
gets up there, and Pete from the Disney does not mince his words.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy gets up there, and I love him because he's so New Jersey. He's so New Jersey, he's fantastic, but he gets up there and he's real brutally honest. And like we mentioned, I mean, he has ties to the mouse, and it would be very easy for him to kind of fall back on, everything's great. Everything's great. And he doesn't. He says his honest opinion. I respect that. So even if I don't agree with someone, and I think we're on the same page here, if I don't agree with somebody, content creator, what have you, but if they're kind of saying their opinion in spite of the fact that they might get a lot of shit for it from their own community and what have you, nothing but respect. Nothing but respect.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. Well, we have to unfortunately wrap it up here. We can like OG said, we can go on for over and over and over. And I think I've had this conversation go on, maybe 3 bouts more than I should have. So I just want to say thank you to Orange Go 55 for having me on. And if you want to interact with me, it's going to be at Vashguy right down there, just like it's spelled. And to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now. So please subscribe. It's going to be at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh from the grove. So that is where you can find me.
But really nothing compares with a freshly squeezed.
If we're going to talk about creators, we've got to mention Adam the Woo. So there you go.
Hey, I got nothing but love for Adam the Woo too. I love that guy. He's great. He's fantastic. Awesome. And I really been liking, I know we got a heart out. Shit, I got to get out of here.
Go ahead, real quick.
But I do love Adam the Woo's content, his non-Disney content, especially like the stuff he's been doing. Like he's been kind of like doing the road trip stuff. Fantastic, love it. Yeah, fantastic. But thank you all so much for watching. I got to get back to work. I do these on my lunch break, y'all. So I'm on a hard out right now. So I do appreciate you guys watching. Like, subscribe, comment down below. What are your thoughts on the Oscars, Hollywood, celebrity culture, independent creators, the sort of the temptations of being an independent creator in regards to sponsorship and monetization? What are your thoughts on that? Comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you very much.